By the age of 22, I could never have imagined that such a moment would come in my life. I'm getting divorced. I met my wife when we were still very young, ironically through my ex. I was a year older than her. I was 18, she was 17. At that time, she was still finishing high school, and I already had a small business of my own that brought in, for that age, quite a decent income. I looked, as some people said, like a guy who smelled of the future. Cafes, restaurants, expensive gifts. Our relationship quickly gained momentum, and after just a couple of months, we moved in together. She graduated, started working here and there. A year later, my business collapsed sharply, a separate story involving a nasty betrayal from my partner, but that only strengthened our relationship, since she supported me. I didn't lose heart too much and started living the life of an ordinary worker. We weren't exactly poor, but there was no abundance either, nor any stable job. A small provincial town, what can you expect? No high salaries, no special prospects. But we lived fine. Everyday life never got in the way of our relationship. The first crisis. I was 23. After 5 years together, I cheated. At that time, my girlfriend, she wasn't my wife yet, went on tour with a small traveling circus where she worked for a couple of months. Meanwhile, I was getting a second, more promising degree, and since I was an orphan, I received extra financial aid, about the same as an average salary. I was working hard on my body, and given that I was well-spoken and broad-minded, I became very attracted to girls. I didn't get into anything serious, just parties, drinking, hotel nights. Naively thought she wouldn't find out, but of course she did. Small town, lots of friends. When she returned, she already knew. At first I denied everything, but eventually I admitted it. A few days later we sat down, talked calmly, and decided to break up. Looking back, I think it would have been better if we had ended it there, but it didn't happen that way. I had nowhere to move quickly, so we continued living together, sleeping on the same couch but acting like strangers. Soon hormones took over, and we resumed our sex life. At first, it was very awkward, because I was filled with terrible shame. During sex, I often saw sympathy instead of passion in her eyes, which made me even more uncomfortable. I often looked away, unable to bear it. But eventually she forgave me, and our relationship was restored. Things gradually improved. Conversations returned to normal, mentions of my cheating faded away. I never looked at another woman again. We lived for each other, tackling life's difficulties side by side. Then we found out she was pregnant. We didn't have our own place or savings, but after a few weeks of discussion with her parents and my relatives, we decided to keep the baby and officially get married. It was a nice wedding, modest but warm. We both believed in a bright future. We found a better apartment. I got side jobs. We even went to partner childbirth classes because I wanted to be there for her, to support her. At 25, I became a father. Our son was born right before I graduated. I stayed with her almost the entire time before and after the birth. Afraid something might go wrong, my own mother died of a stroke after childbirth when doctors didn't monitor her blood pressure properly. Thankfully, everything went well. But as time went on, bills piled up. By the time our son was almost 2, we were drowning in debt. My wife couldn't work yet, and I was constantly switching jobs, working late, taking extra shifts, exhausted. Eventually, my credit card maxed out. I realized I had to change something fast. I started looking for work in bigger cities, and finally settled on Kiev. The plan was to move my family there once I got on my feet. I scraped together what I could and left. After nearly 2 years of struggling, I managed to climb out of debt. I visited home sometimes to see my family. I miss my son terribly. The second crisis. But instead of bringing my wife and son over, I started another relationship. She knew things were bad. Divorce was inevitable, and I wanted it too, but circumstances always delayed it. Despite being deeply in love with this other woman, I broke up with her because I simply couldn't afford to support both her and my family financially. At that point, I felt I had ruined my life with my own hands and would never achieve anything good. I thought, at least I'll make sure my wife and son are financially secure and then fade away. That will be best for everyone. For months later, I invited my wife and son to move to Kiev. I rented them an apartment, put my son in daycare, fully supported them financially. My wife tried to restore our relationship, but I refused. Enough was enough. Over the next half year, I continued to support them. I helped her look for work, but she either couldn't or wouldn't find anything. Eventually, due to political circumstances, I had to live with them again. Home became unbearable. Constant arguments, zero understanding. I filed for divorce. The only thing left was to wait for the court. Finally, I pushed harder for her to find a job. After another big fight, I moved out to live alone. And then she made an unexpected move. 2 months ago, she packed up with our son and left for an unknown destination, submitting paperwork that she didn't contest the divorce. So that's it. I have no feelings left for my ex. In fact, after all the fights, I feel nothing but disgust. I miss my son and always will. I hope I'll see him again someday. He's not to blame for having a father like me. In the end, I became like my own father, whom I never knew.